So one of the hot button issues right now, obviously, is COVID-19 relief. Can you walk us through some of the things that the Appropriation Committee has been involved in the past with some of the past stimulus bills, and then maybe where things stand with the most recent conversations between House Democrats, Senate Republicans on the next round of stimulus?
Yeah, the appropriation does three different types of bills. We do the regular appropriation bills, which are the 12 appropriation bills, and I mentioned that. And the House Committee has passed all 12 appropriation bills. The House floor has passed 10 out of the 12. The Homeland is always very controversial. The far left and the far right have their own opinions about Homeland. The Senate, we're still waiting for the Senate to do something on appropriations. I'm sure they're working on something, but we're waiting on that. So one is the 12 different appropriation bills. The other one is a supplemental. That is, instead of doing the regular appropriation bills, we'll put in monies. So the four relief bills that we passed, with the major one being the CARES Act, have been passed by the House and the Senate, signed by the President. The latest one is, and I'll use the terms they use in the House side, the House passed back in May a relief bill called the HEROES Act of $3.5 trillion. The Senate waited. They didn't do anything on in May. They waited, and then the last week of December, they passed what they call the HEROES Act. That had $1 trillion. There are differences between the House side of $3.5 trillion and the $1 trillion. As you know, the negotiations have been, Speaker Pelosi told the negotiators, and by the way, the negotiators are not the Senate. For the first time, the Senate has given the negotiations to the White House, mainly the Secretary of Treasury, Mnuchin, and of course, Mark Meadows, who used to be a House member. They've given that over to the Senate, which is, I find it very interesting. The last time they met, they basically said, hey, look, we're at $3.5 trillion. You're at $1 trillion. We'll drop $1 trillion. You go up one. That will leave us at $2 trillion to 2.5, and we can work out the differences. The White House basically said no to that. So we're in limbo right now, waiting for negotiations. And I think what's going to happen is, once we do look at the CR in September, that will get us back again to work something out. So that is where we are at the different negotiations on a fifth relief bill, which is a supplemental. Remember, there's 12 regular appropriation bills. A supplemental will be something that we need to fill in, and there are some differences, and I'll be happy to go between the differences between the House and the Senate.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that would be fantastic. What some of those key differences are?
Well, there are some differences. I'll start off with, should Congress provide assistance to cities and counties and states? That's the one major difference. The House has about $1 trillion assistance to the cities and the counties and to the states. The Senate doesn't. The monies to our schools, we send monies to all schools. The Senate says we'll give you money schools if you open up in person. And as you know, that's a debate. Should we open up schools virtually, hybrid, or in person? So there's a difference between that. There's some other differences on basically, food security. The House side has billions of dollars. The Senate has $250,000. On the business assistance, as you know, I think both sides want to help the businesses so they can get started again. As you know, the PPP has gone out to different businesses. We made some adjustments on flexibilities, but the question has always been for businesses, how do you find the balance between the health of the individual and the health of the economy? Because we just don't know when this is going to open up. Another difference between the House and the Senate, I forgot, is limit the liability if somebody opens up and preventing lawsuits. The Senate has that, the House doesn't. But I do want to say this: I support unlimited, protections to businesses. I think that, and in fact, I filed legislation with Garrett Gray's Republican. We have bipartisan. I know Senator Cornyn and other folks have their proposal. I've written letters with some Blue Dogs, Lou Correa, Kurt Schrader, and other folks to the leadership. I have also been on calls with our Democratic leadership, Pelosi's office, and say, hey, listen, we ought to have some sort of limited liability, because if you're a small business or a university or manufacturing or a professional team, and if you follow all the rules on health, why should you be subjected to a lawsuit? I mean, you've been hit hard by COVID-19. Are you going to be hit now by a lawsuit if you've done everything? And basically, our legislation says if you take all the health, follow the CDC, all the health provisions, unless if you do it intentionally or gross negligence, you should have some sort of limit the liability for a period of time on this. So there are some of us that believe that we should have some sort of limited liability. In fact, CARES Act did provide limited liability for frontline care workers, frontline workers, and I reminded the Speaker's office that we've done this before. It won't be something new for the first time. So there's some of us that want to see some sort of limited liability for the small business or universities.
So you mentioned that one of the points that seems to have some bipartisan support is relative to PPP funds. I think one of the points that's being discussed right now is an opportunity for businesses that got PPP funds in the CARES Act to maybe get a second round of that. Can you talk a little bit about what discussions are being held around future PPP monies?
Well, we certainly want to make sure there's an extension or second round to the small businesses. And because, as you know, look, nobody knows how long this situation is going to be around. There's that uncertainty out there. And we certainly want to make sure that if you're a small business owner, as you know, there's some big companies that receive millions of dollars. And again, first priority should be the small businesses, because 2/3 of all the jobs that are created by small businesses. So we learned a lot from the CARES Act. We provided some flexibility. So if you're a small business owner, we want to certainly provide a second round of funding for you all.
That would be a huge help to many of our industry. One of the things that has certainly been of discussion, at least in the national media, have covered this, but I think most of the dealers that are on the call today will tell you that they've seen this additional stimulus money and the kind of federally enhanced unemployment benefit be a boon to their business, where people have been able to stay in their cars, people have been able to maybe purchase a car that they otherwise wouldn't have been. What kind of discussions are being held about an additional round of unemployment compensation at the federal level?
Well, not only the unemployment, but also the stimulus check that some of the folks will get so they can have a little bit of money in their hands. So we certainly want to make sure we provide that extra funding. I know the unemployment, there's been debate between D's and R's on, does that provide an incentive for somebody not to come back to work? What do we, and I'm sure we'll figure that out. But, if somebody truly doesn't have a job, I think we need to help them with that. Certainly, I think we need to have another stimulus check for folks so they can have a little bit of money if they want to make sure they stay in their cars. And it's not only to the individual, but to the small business owner, as I mentioned on the PPP. So those are things that we're going to be working out. We've learned a lot from the very beginning, because as you know, there's been like 4 different relief packages out there, with a big one, CARES Act. We've learned a lot, and we're trying to fine tune this so we can provide funding and the right language to help the individual and the business owners also.